now, and I've had 24 years working in secondary education, 16 in boys' schools, and it's something I've just come to really love. It's fantastic to work with young men in the making. I think also with teenage boys, it's easy to default to some of the stereotypes you might get through the media. If you took or you formed your view on what you pick up from wider conversation, you might think they're all out there boy racing and experimenting dangerously with all manner of dangerous substances, and it's all a bit grim. But we have the good fortune and the pleasure and privilege of being surrounded literally by hundreds of very aspirational, can-do, high-spirited young men who have a sense of purpose and are going to do some great things. And arguably the generation coming through now probably smoking less than my generation was as teenagers. They're not drinking as much. They're probably studying harder if you look at the qualifications they're having to tackle. And the life they are living is probably more disciplined, focused, committed than for some time. So we're in a good state, and New Zealand is in a good state if we take a view to the future and consider what's on the way through and what these young men are going to become. As the Kings itself, for me it's at the moment priority number one is tuning into the school. It's coming to understand it, know it, learn from it and of it, and in so doing to find the places where our strengths reside and where they can be, where suitable, advanced. But that'll take some time and a lot of listening at the moment, and places like this, the company of yourselves, are critical for me because that helps me get context. And even listening over here near the bar before, some of the discussions and comments about how the school has been and where it's going are really important to me because they give me the backstory, and some things now can make more sense to me as a result of that. And also new connections that I hope will be further going forward, and some of you coming back to the school a little more than you may have previously envisaged as well. So it's an absolute privilege to be the 9th rector of our school at King's. And following a very good 8th rector. So it's been good to catch up with you, Dan, the last day or two. We go back perhaps 7 years, I think, connections through the old boys, leadership roles and conferences up in Wellington and other places. So I have a very big respect for what's been achieved at King's in the last decade, and they are the very things that I would go after as well. So I'm coming to a school that's not only familiar to me in key ways, but is promoting and propagating features and elements that would always be those that I would value as well. So that's very important to me, and so on. So a superb school. Really big value I can see given to the basics done extremely well. The basics done extremely well. And you'll all be aware of the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic. You never go wrong with those. They take you well down the path to individual fulfilment, success, satisfaction. But I'd suggest to you there are 3 other R's that loom large in boys' education, particularly at King's, and that's rigour, relevance and respect. And the rigour is that whole idea of you need an education that's rigorous enough to get these guys pushed up, moving, animated and beginning to lift. And by that, shifted outside their comfort zone with an education that's got suitable challenge. You know, we do live in a time where that's a bit of a rarity. Increasingly the days are gone where the bar is set and we work hard to get to it. Now we're in a situation where there are different bars and everyone just finds the convenient bar. So there can be a default to matching something we might happen to be rather than pushing up to find something higher. And I know that's a sweeping statement on my part, but I think it could be a valid observation on the qualification system we're in and just the general philosophy of education in New Zealand at the moment. The relevance part, relevance to the real world. You know, schools run a huge risk of becoming irrelevant if they're not careful because time marches on outside the school gate, and unless you're teaching in a way that directly links to what's happening for them in the future, you've got a problem. You could become a bit obscure or isolated in what you're teaching. So good connections with employers, tertiary institutes, people living in the community are always critical. So these boys have few surprises when they get out there and they're ready to launch. And they're well informed and well prepared. It's also relevance to their individual lives. If you can find ways to hook learning onto what matters to them already, the things they do know, the things they do enjoy, you're halfway there. Because they're going to commit fiercely to new learning that seems relevant because it matches who they are in aspects of their identity or personal interests or prevalent strengths. And the third one, as I mentioned, was respect. Well, I mean, that's a given, isn't it? it's not just respect for the school and others around them, but self-respect. And the boys you worry about are the ones who don't have sufficient self-respect to be able then to project that to others and respect them in turn. So, respect for the things that matters, core values of the school are also critical parts of it. So yes, reading, writing, arithmetic, but also that whole idea of rigour, relevance, respect. And